Prevents the unique opportunity for a low-cost detention facility because the perimeter is already set by Mother Nature.
We're back with the big deal. Florida is forging ahead with a plan to open a new immigration detention facility in the South. Construction has begun on a facility in what the state is calling Alligator Alcatraz. It's located 45 miles west of downtown Miami in the middle of the Everglades, an isolated airfield surrounded by mosquito and python and alligator-filled swampland. The facility is set to open in July as part of the state's efforts to support the Trump administration's mass deportation campaign. Spectrum News political reporter Jason Delgado has more in this report.
With ICE raids ramping up across the country, Florida is working to build a new jail way down in Alligator Alley. The target, they say, is in 30 to 60 days.
We rolled out this proposal last week. It's a location we've been looking at with law enforcement for a while. 30 square miles surrounded by the Everglades down in South Florida. Prevents the unique opportunity for a low-cost detention facility because the perimeter is already set by Mother Nature.
The new site is an abandoned 39 square mile airstrip. The plan calls for at least 5,000 beds, plus infrastructure for water, sewage, and more.
My concern here, Jason, is that it's half-cocked. It's not a serious policy conversation. It's designed to get headlines, hence the name, right? And in an attempt to go viral. That really, I mean, that's most of what this attorney general has done since taking office.
I call it Alligator Alcatraz.
The state says they expect at least partial reimbursement for the project. According to the New York Times, the operation cost could run Florida roughly $450 million a year.
Now, to get this all done, Governor Ron DeSantis had to lean upon his emergency powers, thereby allowing him to grab up the land.
Jason Delgado joins me now with more. And Jason, in your piece, the Florida Attorney General mentions that there's no worry about detained migrants escaping the area. Paint a picture for our viewers of the remoteness and the harsh conditions surrounding this airstrip.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair question, because I'd imagine when most people think of Florida, you think what? White sand, blue waters. But let me tell you, if you start pushing, say, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 miles inland, we're talking about another world now. You are in swamp country. So let's say you've never been out there. I grew up in Florida. If you're not by a swamp, you're standing in a marsh. If you're not in a marsh, you're standing next to a puddle. It is hot. It is sticky. And look, the sun, it's just relentless. Beyond that, there's also a ton of wildlife. As you heard, the state's kind of touting the alligator population, the python population. Never mind the mosquitoes, those will get you too.
Yeah, so now Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is using his emergency powers, and he's using emergency money. He's using FEMA disaster recovery money to build this jail right in the middle of hurricane season. Is the state going to be left shorthanded if there's a storm?
Well, that depends on who you ask. Governor DeSantis says no, absolutely not, that the state has prepared for things like this. They're in the disaster business after all, being in Florida. However, just today, I mean, the Senate Democrats, they held their own little press conference explaining how concerned they are that the state is not only deviating money, but resources, and also the intention of not only just state workers, but also the Florida National Guard. In fact, they're planning to deploy roughly 100 guardsmen to that site. And keep in mind, this is just the first site. The state is already planning, at least looking at one other possible location. And of course, that's a lot more resources that we're going to have to devote to kind of carrying out this operation.
I want to play a part of what the Florida Governor Ron DeSantis had to say about why he's pushing so hard on this project.
The reason why we're having this to be able to be staged is so the feds can process folks and then remove them from our country. And that's the only reason why we're interested in this, because it helps fulfill President Trump's mission.
So now supporting Trump's mission could end up costing, as you reported, almost $500 million a year. Who's going to pay for all of that?
Well, that's another big question. So at least at first, Florida's going to have to do it. Florida's going to have to pony up the money to sustain this operation. As you mentioned, that's a big chunk of change, almost $500 million. With that said, the federal government has come out and said they plan to reimburse the state for this program. But then again, this program's running through FEMA. And I'm not saying that money won't get there, but as a hurricane-prone state, and FEMA, given all the work that they do, Lord knows when that money could come back. And as you mentioned, we are in the middle of hurricane season.
So now the political opposition includes a former Homeland Security Secretary who's calling the plan, quote, a grotesque mix of cruelty and political theater. I saw there are Native Americans who consider this area sacred. They've got their complaints. And of course, the Everglades themselves are part of the national park system and are actually providing a third of the state's drinking water. Are these opponents likely to maybe get together, and are they going to slow the plan or maybe even kill it?
Well, they're certainly going to try, and I can tell you this. I mean, they've just filed a lawsuit, an environmental group based here in Florida, against the federal government, against the state, trying to get an emergency injunction so that they can stop this before it starts kicking off come Tuesday. Now, will it work out? That's hard to say, but in the lawsuit, they're claiming that the federal government, neither the state, took the necessary steps before launching off and start kicking off this site. In particular, they believe that there should have been some sort of environmental analysis done before we're supposed to open up, which, by the way, Tuesday's kickoff day. At least that's what the state's telling us.
You know, this is going to end up being a national issue, isn't it? I mean, I do remember as a kid when they were planning to make the world's biggest airport in this very same site, using that airstrip as, you know, part of the area. And it was the start of the EPA. It was the start of Earth Day. I know past presidents have gone to that very site in the Everglades. There was a big political movement to try and preserve that area.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of history that starts in the Everglades. In fact, kind of the federal government observed it very early on when it started taking up this whole environmental initiative. And as you said, in fact, in that lawsuit, they note how this whole environmental protection initiative really started near that area in the Everglades, trying to deter what they say is happening right now, which is, you know, kind of thwarting that region and however sensitive it is.
Okay. Thanks very much. Great reporting, Jason Delgado. Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, and click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.